what's up? We are so excited to welcome you back to another amazing episode of Living Real TV. I'm Carissa Adkins.
I'm Clara Capano.
And we are here to help you boss up, find clarity in the middle of life's busyness. Because let's face it, life isn't just the easy road, right? Like nothing that we can plan typically goes as planned. So Clara and I, we have an amazing guest today. We are going to bring her on in just a little bit like normal. But we have Lori, and she is a wellness warrior and total boss up badass babe. So we're excited for that. And yeah, today we're talking all about fear. Stepping into
being courageous enough to step into your fear and own your destiny.
Yeah, and I love it. And what better to do that than with Lori, of course. So, but first, Dion, I think we need some fun cocktails for today's show.
Well, today I'm going to offer you a little bit of my own liquid courage.
Okay.
Ooh.
And we're gonna do a little bit of a riff on a cosmo. I mean, I like to call it a nebula because I mean nebulas are in space, so are cosmos, all that crazy stuff. And we're just gonna start out with a little bit of Cointreau. You know, that orange flavored liqueur.
Okay. I was hoping he wasn't going to test me on my space knowledge because I was like, I think that was the semester I just completely skipped. So I'm like, please don't talk about space with me.
A little bit Tito's there.
A little Tito's, you know, if you love being gluten free.
Yeah,
this
I was just going
is
to say
definitely
gluten-free
the way
fans. It's always in my freezer. So like freezer, right? Like. Does that hurt the liquor?
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't help either, you know.
Okay.
Depending on the alcohol by volume.
Okay.
It can actually be a little bit bad for certain things, but overall.
For like basic vodka.
Yeah, basic vodka can go in the freezer. It's just anything below 30 proof. You want to be really careful. Of course, as always, we got some fresh squeezed juice here.
Yes.
And is that lime or lemon juice?
This is lime.
Nice.
And then we're gonna this is a peach cranberry infusion that has been slightly clarified. So this is something you have to, don't try this at home. Just get cranberry juice and a little peach juice, mix them together. They work just fine.
Leave this one to the experts.
Well, we're not lighting anything on fire like we did in season 2.
You don't know that yet.
Oh! He's been holding out on us, huh?
I even put my hair back for this one in case I had to do anything crazy.
I have plans for you ladies next week.
Love it.
And as always, we're gonna give her a little
What are we shaking to?
You know, I don't know today. It just depends. There it is. It's this song by Ella Fitzgerald called Hearts in Alabama.
Hearts in Alabama.
You can see him singing it over there.
I know.
I was trying to think of a space theme song and I couldn't get one.
I'm like,
are there any?
Is there?
I'm sure there
I
are.
don't think they make them any. Reach out and touch space.
Know.
You
Yeah.
know, since back in the day, I haven't heard any.
I don't hear
space
too many
music.
things about space.
I cannot sing. One of the things I do.
Fly me to the moon.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
I love it. That's cool.
So I was in a rock band in the 90s, and I have a few space songs. I don't know if they're appropriate for today's day and age. Kids now would be like, you're an old man.
We'll come and revisit those on the break.
And there we have it. We have our cosmos that are basically nebulous.
Nebulous.
I like it.
And this one right here is a non-alcoholic. So basically, instead of using alcohol, I used a limoncello that I make at home.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Ladies, please have the courage
to
to take a taste of these.
Beautiful.
Today.
Thanks, dear.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, here we go. Let's cheers to being courageous.
Courageous.
Boss up babes. I love it.
Love it.
I really like this one.
It's so light and refreshing.
It's very light,
Yes.
and I could see this like at a brunch or even just again a girls' day.
Yeah, I would put this on my menu. I love martinis all day long. So I love the cup, I love the glass, I love the crystal, but I do love the flavor. It's so light.
Ugh. Dion hit a home run with this one.
So
I love it.
Absolutely, and as a mocktail, it's amazing.
Perfect.
Yeah,
really,
like
really
he
good.
just like randomly has everything to make mocktails.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it.
I love
You
it.
go to a restaurant and ask, they're like, we don't even know how to make a mocktail.
I know.
At least in Nebraska. I bet they do in Florida, where you're from, Lori.
So yes, Lori, thank you so much for being here with us, and very excited to dive into your story, get a little bit about your background and what you do to really help all people, but especially women, really tap into unlocking their fears and helping them be more courageous on their path. But before we do that, one of the things we always do is we always have our question of the day.
Yeah.
So being that we're talking about courage and stepping into our destiny, I would love to ask you, what is the most courageous thing that you have ever done, and what did it do for you? So Lori, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you. So it's twofold, really. Part of my story is that I got diagnosed with breast cancer. We could get into that as much as you want. And what happened from that is that I realized that working in the healthcare environment, being patient-facing at the time that I needed to heal myself was not going to work. Like, I found myself crying in the elevator. It was just not a good fit at the time, and I had to make that really hard decision to leave a profession that I absolutely loved, and I needed to pivot, and I needed to do it quickly.
Yeah.
So that's how I became a coach. I realized, you know what, if I am going through this and I feel this way and I have this medical background, then how does anybody else get through it? And that's really one of the hardest things I ever had to do. I had to struggle for a really long time with the decision. It took me a good 3-4 years to be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. It was hard, part of it is like an ego thing, but part of it is like the joy that I got from being a PA. And so that was really difficult. And the second part to that is actually being here with you today. Right? Like, I am not I'm a person that loves to be in the background, right? I will support everybody else, but I'm usually not the front-facing person unless I'm in like a PA role. So it really takes a lot for me to be here with you today. But I feel compelled to do that. That my story is going to help a lot of people.
It is.
And that's what gives me the courage to really move forward.
That's
So
fantastic.
inspiring.
So, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
All the way here, shining bright like a diamond. I was like, girl, that outfit is sexy. I was like, I love that color on you.
I know.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Great.
Is it a power color? Do you
it's
feel that
not.
it's one of.
It usually pink, like what you're
Oh,
wearing
okay,
right now, is my
okay.
color. But I was like, you know what? Let me change it up a little bit
Okay.
today.
Did courageous action with your outfit going from the norm.
Exactly. So what about you? I feel like, Krista, you've shared so many stories, and you're one of the most courageous people I've known.
Yeah.
But what would you say right now?
I had the opportunity a couple months ago to get some mentoring, get some coaching by a man named Dr. John Demartini. My mentor, Dee Dee Wong, which all of us know, I believe. It's crazy how we all kind of start to circle ourselves with badasses. But yeah, Dee Dee Wong, she wasn't my mentor. She's my speaking coach at the same time. In fact, Lori and I were going through a same speaking course together. And Dee Dee said, hey, there's an opportunity for you. And I read it, and she goes, I'm just not sure if you have something that will fit. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And she's like, I'm not sure if you're even struggling with anything right now. And I was like, girl, you don't even know, right? Like, oh. And so I looked up the information and I read it, and the first thought was, my story's not enough for that. Like, you're right, it's not a big enough woe is me moment, right, to even apply. And then I was like, no, shut up, Carissa, and do it. If your mentor sees something like an opportunity to do it. And so I applied back in November. We were supposed to film it in January, and then, in May, the opportunity came back up, and they said, we've chosen you, we'd love to have you. And now it was really real. It's one thing to apply, and then you're like, okay, it'll happen. Like, I'm not going to worry about it until it happens. And then the email, I was like booking my flights, and I'm like, this is real. And it's been a long time since I felt shaken up a bit, since I felt like I don't want to do this. This is nerve-wracking, because you guys, working with a coach in a movie, might I add, it's going to be a documentary. Did I say that right? Because I always F that up.
Documentary.
I overcomplicate even words. But yeah, it's like, it's a film. And yes, I produce shows, right? Yes, I tell my stories on podcasts. Yes, I tell my stories with clients on Facebook. But something about like a movie, like, oh. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I walked in, I bossed up, I took some courageous action. I got real. I got teary-eyed. I probably went through a whole box of, tissues, because that's me. And I laid my shit out for everyone to hear. And I feel free.
Good.
I feel empowered. And what moments like that do for us, you being here, right? It builds confidence and it builds strength. And it allows us to tap into, okay, so the next time something big comes along, I'm going to remember, well, Chris, if you can share your story in a movie, and you can do this, and you can get through that, like, why not keep bossing up? So that was a pretty big moment.
That's awesome.
Career-wise, personally, professionally, I bossed up.
I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
What about you? Can't wait.
For me, I got divorced.
Oh.
And, I don't want to talk negatively about that, because my ex-husband is actually fantastic. He's a wonderful dad. He's very, involved in Nicholas's life, and we are friends, but we could not be the best versions of ourselves with each other. Yeah. And, I had it all. I had a really good husband who would not cheat on me, and again, really provided. I had the house on the golf course. I had the luxury car. I mean, we had all the boxes checked, but I was stifled. I couldn't step into my greatness for whatever reason, and I don't need to go into that, but taking that leap, and everybody told me I was making a mistake. Everyone told me I was crazy, that I would regret it, but I knew it was not the right place for me, and I knew I couldn't really become the person, the role model, the mom I wanted to be. And so when Nicholas was a year and a half, I took the step. He was a year and a half. And now Brian is remarried to someone who is perfect for him, and I'm so happy. And I just feel that I had to do what was going to be best for me, and knowing that was going to allow me to step into who I needed to become.
So go back to 15 years roughly then. Sitting back in that moment, what did you do to kind of come out and say, I want a divorce? Do you remember what you tapped into?
I remember the day, and that's what I had to really tap into, was not this idea of it's you or it's me. It was, we're both good people, but we're not able to really appreciate each other for who we truly are. And the things that you bring, again, they don't help me elevate, and I'm not really helping you elevate into the best version of yourself. So really trying to take it off of, this is a bad thing and it's anything against you. This just isn't right for us.
Gotcha. Was it mutual?
No.
Okay. Neither was mine. Mine was,
I think if you ask him now,
all on her own.
Yeah, I think if you were to ask him now, he's like, it was the best thing, because he and Aaron are fantastic, but
at the time, it was not a mutual decision. No. Yeah, neither was mine. I was like, oh shit, here we go. Oh, I love it. Well, diving in, right, we have Lori here with us, and she's from sunny Florida. And we actually know Lori. Quick backstory: we are part of the Women Who Boss Up movement. Yeah. And I'm pretty proud to say, we are part of a freaking movement, baby. And we were in if you guys have been watching our show, right? We give every one of our guests the Women Who Boss Up book,
because we were in the first one.
Yes.
So and now there are, I think, 5 or 6 of them.
A lot, like Women Who Boss Up Asian and Latinos and nonprofits.
During a pandemic. And Laura, you were in the second book.
Yep, the Life and Wellness.
Okay, Life and Wellness. And I know this book was it was like a catalyst for me, right? It actually led me to you. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your, like your chapter in your book. What did the book do for you specifically?
Oh, that's a great question. So for me, it really got me out there. It pushed me outside of my comfort zone. It made me really share with, the world, because it is an international best-selling book, what my story was and what I went through, and just really being vulnerable.
Yeah.
It had me step into that vulnerability, because I knew that the impact that for someone somewhere that was reading it would be so beneficial.
Yes.
And career-wise, for me, it's had me be here with you today. Yeah. It's had me, be on different platforms that I wouldn't have been on otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you mentioned it came out in 2019, book 1. We all got a call, And at that point, most people were unsure of their finances. They were unsure in their businesses. They were unsure in their life. They're like, what's going on? And, you know, we had this publicist reach out to all of us and say, take a chance, right? Do this with me. We'll make it work. We did all go international best-selling author list, which is fantastic. You have a podcast, which, you know, so instead of book tours, because no one was meeting in person, it went to podcast
tours,
interview.
right?
Yeah, and that's how you you pivot and you shift, and that's how we met, right? So tell me a little bit about your podcast again.
So my podcast is really unique. It is for cancer warriors, ultimately. It's for people, anybody who's been touched by cancer. And so that is the warrior themselves, the caregivers that go through so much, and also the healthcare staff, right? It's really difficult for a lot of people, and it provides them the platform to just really share their story so that way they can feel heard. A lot of times, especially when you're going through a life trauma, whether it's cancer or divorce, it doesn't matter, but like you want to be heard, and it's so freeing for people. And it's also beneficial because people know they're not alone.
And I love that you're also doing it for, you know, not just the people that are going through it, but the people that are caring for them. Because I would imagine, you know, having to work in an area like hospice or oncology to see these things happening that are out of our control that we can't fix, and all we can do is bring them comfort. That would weigh very heavily on me and my emotions.
Yeah, because you see your patient, like you're treating them.
Yes.
It's not like an ER visit, you're like, okay,
see
in
you
and
later.
out, pass you out and go. You see these people, you start to feel their families. You know how many times did I sit next to my mom and I'm like, you know, like, and they see our pressure, they feel it. I can't imagine, like, you know, it's got, and you see so many. Like I just saw my mom go through it, you know, but like, people in that profession, you see everybody go through it.
And part of what happened for me too is that I also found myself on the caregiver side really 8 months after my diagnosis. And it was just overwhelming to just know that you can't do anything other than to try to support them as much as you can, but you can't change it, right? And that's kind of where that leads to my own journey. Like
tell us about that.
I knew when I got diagnosed, like, I couldn't change it. I didn't think it was going to be me. So for anybody watching, if you hear anything of today's message, please go get screened, right? I accidentally found mine on my baseline mammogram.
And you were in that field.
And I had, you know, I was almost 41, and I was so busy with my patients that I didn't go when I turned 40. So I found myself going to my primary care physician being like, I'm so sorry I didn't go, but I promise you I'm gonna go. And she was like, Lori, don't worry about it. They just changed the guidelines to 45. And after working in oncology for 20 years, I'm like, there's no way I'm waiting. So I kind of sat with it for a little bit, and then I had a dream. I had a dream where I got woken up. I was startled. It was one of the worst feelings in my life because my dream was that I was riddled with cancer. And that was the catalyst I needed to get on the phone. And, you know, part of getting beyond fear is also listening to your intuition and knowing to put yourself at the right place at the right time by looking for the signs. And for me, it was like I called the hospital across the street because you never go and get anything done where you work. You don't want people to know, right? And so they actually had an appointment the next day. They were able to see me like that, and that never happens. So like I go there not thinking anything of it. They call me back, they're like, we need more scans, and I still didn't think anything of it, right? And I go there and they're like, okay, great, you're gonna get a biopsy. And I'm like, for what? What are you talking
nobody
about?
said anything,
right?
Now, did you have it in your family?
No, I have no family history. I was 41 years old. My primary care physician did a self-exam. I always did monthly self-exams. We didn't feel anything. Anything at all. And so that mammogram really saved my life. Like, I am so clear that I wouldn't be sitting here with you today without it.
It's interesting that you say, you know, you again kind of found it on accident. And the same thing happened to one of my really good friends. Is she went into the doctor, her daughter needed to have something done, and to show her daughter some bravery, she said, Mommy will go first. And they found something. So and you know, now it's been 4 or 5 years, and you know, she's cleaned and luckily in good health right now. But I would imagine, I mean, tell us about from being on the side where you were a caregiver to now you're a patient. What did that kind of do to your mindset? Like,
Well, more of being a professional that worked with it every day, right? Because I have a master's in pathology. And so for me, it was like, it was my life. I loved it. I loved knowing that I was making a positive impact for people. But then when people would always come to me and ask me questions, and I would filter what I would say based on what they would want to hear. Like I would test them to see how much they would want to know. And I didn't have that privilege for myself.
Wow.
Like it's too much, so you kind of go down the rabbit hole. And that was something I really needed to work on, just really keeping a level head, right? And just kind of roll with the punches, see how things worked out.
Yeah. So I kind of want to fast forward, just storytelling time still. So, you were in this role, you were diagnosed with cancer, you went through treatments, you came out, obviously, a different woman, right? Because you've bossed up in so many different levels, mentally, physically, emotionally. How did you become this coach, right? How did you step into the coaching role?
Yeah, it was like, once I realized that I couldn't do what I loved, like my whole existence was being part of this community. And when I realized that I just couldn't do it anymore, I knew I had to make a big change. And it was, like I said earlier, like it took something. It took a lot of soul searching. It took a lot of like, what do you want? Like, what do you want to do? And when I realized how difficult the journey really is, it's not, it's an experiential thing. Like until you go through it, you kind of don't know. Right, and we don't really want anybody to know, let's be honest, right?
You're like, no, don't walk the same path, please.
Right, and so it wasn't until I really got there and I realized how traumatizing it was and how difficult it is to keep your head on straight. That I'm like, I have to do something for people. And that was my catalyst. So I ended up finding a really great coaching school. I went through the program and I just put myself out there, and my podcast came naturally. I really just did the work that I needed to do for myself in order to be present for other people.
And I think we have to walk through the fire in order to understand and relate to our people. The biggest thing that I am my past client,
Absolutely.
I am the obese woman that is sitting there hating her body, hating the reflection, not feeling confident in her own skin. And I'm also the client now on the continuum where like, okay, I want to be healthy, but I want to get healthier, right? Like I'm healthy, I've gotten some weight gone. Now I want to like step into this powerful version of me. So it is fun, but you have to go through it. It's really hard to help someone that you've never gone through a journey
Exactly. And again, you got to know that mindset to help build trust and connection with them. And, there's a lot of empathy, especially in your type of coaching that, I think all coaching has that, but it's a different kind.
Yeah. And the other thing that I learned is that you need to look for the silver linings, right? And so for me, I was like, I was able to create a new position for myself, still using my education, to make a living so I could then become a coach to then serve people. And in that process, I'm like, okay, well, what do I want? Where do I want to go? And then I'm like, well, I don't want to be here. I was living in New England and it just didn't feel right for me. So I literally picked everything up and I moved.
How did you pinpoint a spot?
So I followed my one true love, right?
Your partner? Yeah.
Well, I am my own one true love, however. No, I followed my partner. He was in Nashville. So I'm like, you know what? Look, I want palm trees. So I'm either going to move with you to Nashville or I'm going to go to Florida or somewhere that's warm and palm trees because I've wanted this my entire life and I've never done it. I never did it. And it was one of those moments that what it provided me was like, okay, enough. Like you have today and that's all that's promised. Right? So, and it was like having the hard conversations of like, this is what I'm gonna do and you may not like it, right? Like leaving my family was not easy at all. But that's part of the courage. That's like, you know what, this is what I want and I have to, and whoever comes along for the journey comes along for the journey.
I love that. And we're gonna keep this conversation going in our next half. And Lori, we really wanna dive in more to some of the strategies that you use with your clients to help them be more courageous. I know having a mindset of gratitude is something big that you teach, so I wanna tap into that. So stay tuned. Come back for the second half where we're really going to give you some strategies on living your most courageous life ever.
Hi, I'm Clara Capano with Capano Speaking and Training, and I am here to get you clarity. As the strategist for the Smart Woman, I've spent over 20 years working with women in business, helping them to recreate what success looks like for them, to get them off that hamster wheel and to get them into running a purpose-driven business. When you work with me, you're going to find real strategies that are going to help you gain immediate traction in both your personal and professional life. So follow me and find out all you need to get you clarity at claracapano.com.
Welcome back, you guys. We are talking all things courageous action and bossing up. And really, now we're going to talk about what that means and how to kind of face your fear after, you know, a difficult situation, and how to kind of walk with, you know, with confidence and with power, and really own your mindset while you're going through a courageous moment, because it takes its toll for sure on your mind, for sure. So we're talking here with Lori from sunny Florida, and she just got done talking to us about her story, from how she went from PA to cancer survivor to a coach to podcaster to speaker,
best-selling author,
international. Like, she is bossing up on all levels, you guys.
Yeah.
So
I would love to, you know, ask
inspiring.
a question, because, you know, you work with people that are going through trauma, and trauma can look very different. But when people go through trauma, a lot of time it brings in fear, discomfort, and that keeps people from going forward and being courageous. So talk to us a little bit, since you work with women, helping them step into courage. What does that even mean for you? Like, what does it mean for you? How do you define being courageous?
Oh, that's such a good question. For me, being courageous means being unstoppable, right? That no matter what your circumstances are, like, you just recognize that they're there and you still go for it, right? Like, so many people are stopped because of reasons or, you know, mindset or thoughts, right? Like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I can't do that. Who do I think I am? Like, oh, these people are gonna think that way about me. But ultimately, you know, we have one life. And it's like, you need to be true to yourself, like you mentioned, Clara. Like, you have to, because if you're not going to do it for yourself, then who's going to do it for you?
Yeah, you mentioned, right, when you kind of realize you have that moment, especially going through something like, I've gone through cancer, I'm okay, like, but we do only have the day that we have in front of us. I mean, you could be battling anything and then tomorrow get in a car accident or something. So I remember when my mom passed, after a 10-year battle with cancer, she passed, and, you know, there's always stuff that we wish we would have done. And so I made it a point, I was like, I've always wanted to learn to ride a motorcycle. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. So everyone thought I was crazy, and they're like, why? And I'm like, why not? Like, I've always wanted to do it. My dad had one when I was little, so yeah, I went out and bought Harley Davidson, and I learned, and I got my license, and people just are like, I don't even understand. Like, aren't you afraid you'll? And I'm like, no, like, I only have today. So you moved to Florida. You're like, I need to go to sunny Florida with palm trees. Like, that's where you thrive. Clara, is there something that if you had?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, again, all the things we've done, you know, starting a TV show and, you know, venturing out, leaving my corporate job that was very safe and secure, you know, to do that. And again, I know you've had so many moments of, you know, stepping out of, like with the movie you were talking, the documentary.
Screw it. Like, I may not be here tomorrow, so I'm going to live my best life today.
One of the things I'm curious about, because I think when people have these life-changing events, you know, they have two choices. And again, it comes back to talking about mindset, is it could either shut you down, and especially with something like cancer or an illness, it could be a death sentence, or it could open you up. For you personally, do you feel it made you more courageous? Do you feel you're more courageous now?
You know, I was fortunate enough that I had done a lot of personal development before my diagnosis, so I already had tools available. But without that, I don't know how I would have gone through it. But, you know, I live by the motto, why not? Right? Like, why not? Just try it. What's the worst that can happen? So, you know.
So you were blessed, right? Because you had that personal development. You kind of were already, and because once you kind of start to become aware, there is no go. That's why once you become it becomes a junkie. But like, what tip would you give someone if maybe they've never worked with a coach, they're not self-aware, they're just grinding it out, and they got some bad news? What would be like a tip for them to, like, where they could start?
Oh, you know, I mean, you're talking to people that I I support, right? And so that's the conversation I hear a lot of, you know, especially recurrence. Like, I'm not going to be here to see my grandkids. Like, I'm not going to be, you know, here for a long time. And so it's one of those things that I literally tell them. I'm like, well, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. You don't know how long we're going to be. Like, there's no timeline. There's no guarantee of what you're going to do. So you have to do what you want to do today. Like, today is the only thing that's promised. So
nasty diagnosis. That's a freaking bomb.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bomb drop.
Terrible.
How do you? There's nothing nice about one of those phone calls.
No.
So how do you stay positive with
I
it
know.
all?
Oh, well, first and foremost, you got to just go through the rage,
Okay.
right? Like,
So just
everybody
get
gets
pissed.
angry, gets angry, do whatever it is, and it's a recurring thing.
Yeah, and I would imagine some people sit in denial for a while too before they, get to that.
Oh
end.
yeah, they ignore it, right? Like, I'm not going to do anything about it. It's totally fine. They don't know what they're talking about. Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
And then the anger comes through. You just got to really be okay with the fact that you're going to have emotions around it. You know, give yourself a lot of grace. Give yourself permission. You know, I usually give myself a day. Like, okay, today's going to be my day where I'm just going to be totally selfish.
Yeah.
I'm going to just sit in it. I'm going to do what it is that to deal with it. And then tomorrow, we'll start again with the positivity, right?
Okay.
Like, it's really okay. You're human. You're not a robot. And so, that's give yourself tons of grace. Like, there's gonna be things that really just weigh you down.
Yeah.
You know.
I would love to ask, just from an outside perspective. I personally have not gone through cancer. I haven't had really anybody near and dear to me, have to deal with that. I've had other illnesses that people have reached. But, what are some of the things that we can do for those who might be going through it? Because everybody's journey is different. So even if I had cancer, my journey would be different than yours. And I think some people can say oh yeah, my mom had cancer too. I know it's terrible. But that's a bit insensitive because everybody's journey is different. So what would you say for somebody who's on the outside supporting someone who's going through trauma? What are some of the best things we can do?
I love this question. And, it's not asked enough. And honestly, just be there and listen. Like, you don't have to talk. You don't have to say anything. Just be there and be a support. So it's not something to fix. There's nothing to fix.
Yeah, it is
There's
what
nothing to
this
fix.
one is what it is.
It is what it is,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Okay.
like, this is it. This is what you got. So just really be there and just be a kind ear. And then for people who are, having struggles around medication or, they might get depressed, right? Find things that you can do for them. Like, bring them food, bring them groceries, do their laundry, send them a house cleaner, like, support them with everyday living because, I had my biggest, I love small victories is what I love to do. And I'll never forget the first time I ventured outside of my house without anybody else. And it's just because I wanted a Starbucks. I just wanted a coffee, and I had been in my house for about 20 weeks, right? Like, I had some complications, and it was just like, I need out. I need out. So I was so excited. I went down the elevator, like, I went through the front door, and then I get the Starbucks. And I lived in Boston at the time, and it was this big old building with this big, huge, like, door, right?
Like the big old school.
Doors. And I remember pulling on the metal handle, and I went one arm, couldn't do it. I went both arms, I still couldn't do it. Right?
Like, I just want a Starbucks.
What the hell?
And I
is
literally
wrong with
remember
me?
just standing there, like, defeated. And some guy came behind me, opened the door, and looked at me like, weirdo, why aren't you going in, right? And he doesn't even know how much he supported me then.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be a big act. It's just like the small things.
Somebody once, sorry to cut you off. Somebody once even told me, don't ask them what is it you need because they may not even know. Just do it.
Yeah, and they may not know, or like me, I won't ask anybody for help.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to recap the hidden secret that you said in there. So, like, how do you find gratitude? How do you find positivity in the middle of shittiness?
Yeah.
You said, right, like, number one was, that you have to go through the shit, right? You have to go through the emotions. Don't try and
it's
fight
okay.
them. It's okay. Like, there's rage rooms now. Like, nothing excites me more than, like, breaking a bunch of crap.
I
and
love
smashing,
that.
like, right? So that's cool. But the second thing you said in there was that, gosh, what was it? What was it?
Give yourself grace.
No, it was something better than that. Yeah, that's why I was like, oh my gosh, she doesn't even know. That's why I wanted to stop. Gosh, you said, oh, it'll come back. Oh, that's why I was like, and just kidding. Because it was a great tip for someone who's, small victories.
Small victories.
Because so many times you think, I'm just going to go and I'm going to do this, and you set that expectation. But for you, it was like, okay, it's a small victory today. I'm leaving the house to go get coffee because that's what I need. My sanity is really important right now. So focusing in on those small things that you are able to do versus the things you are not able to do is a huge strategy alone.
Yeah, and like some days your victory is making your bed. Taking a shower, getting dressed, putting your makeup on, doing your hair. We take for granted so many of the small things. And so confidence, positivity, joy of life, just the greatness of being alive really comes from the small things.
It does. Absolutely. So talk about the importance of your circle and surrounding yourself with the right people and how that impacts your ability to be more courageous and more confident.
Yeah, so your tribe when you're going through something difficult. So whether, anything, any trauma at all, your tribe may not be the people that are closest to you. So, I tell my clients all the time, do not get upset if your family doesn't understand what you're going through.
Right.
We don't want them to understand what we're going through. So don't be upset if they don't know what to say, if they don't know how to be, if they say stupid things, right? It's them trying to be supportive, but they just don't get it. So sometimes your tribe is gonna be outside of you. It's gonna be people that you meet along the way that you don't even know existed. They're gonna be the people who come into your life at a time where you need them. They may have gone through what you've gone through, they may not have, but they're gonna really provide you the support that you need. And so I always say, don't go and get a divorce. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you need to find other outlets for you to be able to just speak freely,
The digital world makes it really easy to do.
It does.
I mean, you really can connect with other people all across the world.
Yeah,
you can
support
find
groups.
your tribe, online in a community. Just our relationship alone. I mean, how many texts have I gotten that I'm like, oh, Lori, I'm here for you, right? Just know I got your back, girl.
Exactly.
And that's all sometimes you probably need to hear. But the man who opened the door for you was your support system at that time. Right.
And I think it would be difficult because on one end your family wants to be there for you so much. But again, it may not be the support that you need. And I bet it would be hard because they're like, why can't I help you? So I think there has to also be some communication of, I love you, I admire you, I respect you, and I also need this group here. So it's not that I don't need you, it's just I can get something over here. And letting them know it's not that you're pushing them away, but sometimes they just can't serve you the way you need to be served.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, right? What comes up for me with that is boundaries. Right? Especially when you're going through something traumatic, you need to set boundaries that are healthy for you and not for
Forget everyone else.
Right?
Yes.
And my poor mama, I love my mom so much, and Mama, I'm sorry because I know you'll be watching this. She has my heart.
Yeah.
But sometimes as a mom, you get so nervous about your kids that it's you're not supporting them the way that they need. So now I've learned to say to her, I'm like, Mom, I appreciate it, but I can't right now with that.
I love that.
I like that. Can't do it. Can't do this right now.
Cancer set aside. I mean, even our young ones know this. My daughter will literally be like, Mom, I love you. When I come out of town like this, I'm I'm on a 3-week hiatus right now, knowing that I have friends taking care of my kids. And that she's like, I don't want you to smother me. So she's like, all of your texts, she's like, I will text you once. I'm like, okay. At the end of the night, text me one time and I won't worry, right? It's what we do as moms. It's what we do as friends. It's and we don't know any better because it's coming from a place of love. But good for you and good for my daughter, right? This is my boundary. Give me respect.
I'll come and revisit. But right now is not the time.
Right now, right? And again, feeling secure enough that this is what I need and to own that voice and to say that.
Yeah, but I'm a people pleaser too, right? And it took me a lot digging deep and being okay, what do I need? How do I make this be what serves me? Instead of the other way around.
One of the things I think would be the most challenging for me, and I think a lot of the women in our audience, is this idea of having to ask for help.
Yes.
Because, you know, we like to control things. And I even know when I'm sick, I'm like, I got it, I'm fine. You know, I don't need any help. You know, when I'm traveling, I got my luggage, I can, you know, live.
Oh, yeah.
But in certain situations, you have to ask for help.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that with women? How do you help them learn that there is no shame in asking for help?
Yeah, this is a very difficult one for a lot of people, including myself. It's humbling. This process is humbling. It's one of those things that you sometimes don't have a choice. You know, after my treatment, you know, there was a point in time I couldn't even shower myself. So you have to, again, set yourself up with what you need. I tell people, I would rather have you go and set yourself up with more than you think you might need and be like, no, I'm good, than not have the support at all, because then that can have you really spiral. So have people that you trust, you know, be really courageous in being like, this is what I might need, right? There's a lot of resources online that tell you, like, this is what you can expect, this is what you're gonna go through. If you don't know, please contact me, I will help you, right? I will tell you exactly, you know, what you can anticipate. And sometimes when you go to your, you know, clinicians, your physicians, they may forget, right? That
because they see it all the time.
they see it all the time. So be an advocate. Ask them. You know, get with your social workers. Get with the support, the resources, so that way you know what to anticipate. And then just, you know, don't be so stubborn is the word I think I'm going to use. And not ask for the help, because ultimately you getting back to a stronger, healthy place is never going to be without the support of other people. And it's regardless of what you do, you can't do it alone.
You mentioned another tool. I love just pointing them out.
Yeah,
so
I love it.
whether you have cancer or not, you guys, it doesn't matter. There are resources out there, right? So if you have depression, if you're fighting postpartum, if you, like, A, you're not alone, you know, and B, there are tons of resources out there, whether it's your daily podcast that, like, maybe it's Law and Order, you know, like, it's your guilty pleasures of, like, there are things out there for me. So, I mean, at the end, it sounds like you have two choices when you're kind of at that moment in life, whether it's a diagnosis or whether it's something else. You can either play the victim and just let it go, right? And that, I'm telling you, that path sucks. Okay.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah, we have.
Right? We've all been there.
Or we can step in and say, okay, it sucks, but I'm going to come out, whether I come out on top or not, I'm going to go this way, because I know what victimhood feels like. So you have to kind of take ownership. I know we don't have a lot of time, and God, I could just keep talking.
I know, there's so much I want to unpack here. But
you mentioned something in the first half, intuition. So many women have forgotten how to listen to their body's intuition. So when it comes to intuition, what do you think about it? How do you help your clients tap into their own intuition?
Oh,
Why do we lose our intuition? Like, this is a God-given talent.
I mean, it's such a great question, and it's really my heart. This process has had me just really listen to myself. You know, your intuition comes in a lot of different ways. You know, it presents itself differently for people. And it's like, it could be that little voice in the back of your head. It could be a feeling. It could be like, you know, you may get sensations in your body that are telling you one way or another. It could be signs that you see, you know, that constantly come around you. You know, one of the things that happened to me was that I was offered this job opportunity multiple times and I kept turning it down, right? And it was one of those things, it was like this world-renowned cancer center. And I was like, why are they coming to me? Like, what are we doing? And it took a friend to press that send button of like, I'm accepting. But like, you know, hindsight's 50-50. And a year later, I got diagnosed, but I was working for a world-leading breast oncologist who took care of me. And after that happened, I was like, this is why this kept happening. So now I don't fight it anymore. When an opportunity presents itself, and I'm either a yes or a no, and I tell people, like, you have a choice, be a yes or a no, but stand powerfully in that choice.
Own it.
Right? And if it keeps coming back, there's a reason why the universe keeps sending you the same signs over and over again. So pay attention. So when things come up for me, you know, like, I loved living in Nashville, but the universe gave me a tornado that destroyed my house. I'm like, okay. You're like, oh, where am I supposed to be?
I see you.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah. So you know what? I took that as a moment to just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And like, you got to really know who you are, like what you want. Like, take the time and sit down with it. Like, who are you? What do you want right now? Like, not your 18-year-old self. Like, who are you right now? And what is it that you want? And then look at where you're getting stuck.
Yeah.
Like, what is stopping you? Like, and be real with yourself.
Yeah.
You know? And then, you know, part of what we do, and that's what I do with my clients.
Yeah, I was like, if you guys can't figure out the stuckness part, call Lori.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Because we can always see other people's stuckness. We can't, it's hard to see our own.
And then we come up with an action plan,
Yeah.
right? Like, you get steps. You create a plan to, like, where you want to go. And it could be a plan of 30 days from now. What do you want to do? It could be a plan 5 years from now. What do you want to do?
Or 5 days from now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, and then you look for your resources, right? Like, your tribe that's going to support you there may not be people that you have in your life right now, right? It's like those 5 people that you need in your life. You may not have them, you know. And if you don't know what that is, please go look that up. Like, the 5 people that you need.
I love intuition
I
because
know.
I mean we forget in my industry we hear women are like, I don't know what's good for my body, I don't know what foods to eat.
Yeah.
I'm like, girlfriend, did you just hear what you just said? Like, really think about it. I don't know what foods are good for my body. Like, yes, you do. Stop listening to everything else and just ask you what your body needs.
Yeah.
It tells you. I mean, you could say, body, what do I need? I need sleep. I need a hug. I need to feel loved today. I just need to break something, right? Like, intuition comes in all
Yeah,
shapes
and again,
and
just
sizes.
listening again to what you need, whether it's food or a day off or someone to just listen to you. You know, it's okay to say, you know what, right now I just need you to listen to me. But, you know, really just working on that. And I think, again, that is a step of courage to be brave enough to listen to yourself and take all of those. But, you know, we have to do a better job of just saying, this is what I need. You know, right now.
This show alone, if you have not watched a single episode and you just stumbled across Living Real, this could be a sign. There's probably something.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, just saying, like, I look for these signs everywhere. And you say it all the time, right? Tony Robbins leaves those clues. I'm like, God leaves clues, in my opinion. And so when things feel scary, that's when I know I got to boss up. Like, that's for me the moment of when I'm like,
Yep.
I'm like,
when
okay,
it
just
hits
do
that
it.
chord. Or again, you start seeing things, and so many times it's, you know, I met this person, you know, one of our other guests, you know, she was sitting next to me on the plane, you know, and that was
And
fate
how many
bringing
people
us
do you
together.
sit next
And
to on a plane?
exactly.
Yeah,
And it's just, you know, I always think too, if I wake up and somebody's on my mind, I need to reach out to them because there is a reason for that. It may be business, but it could just be that we need to stay connected.
Yeah.
So,
but you can't be blind
No.
to what, you know, you have to be willing to look, right? So if it's in your marriage, you can't be like, my marriage is great and keep telling yourself that when it's not, when there are clear signs that it's not.
the good thing is the signs will always come back if you don't listen the first time
the universe
or
has
the
a
15th
weird
time.
way to remind you.
And that's a really great point because, you know, the signs will always keep coming back.
Yeah.
And some of us are so thick-headed that we need something
Literally.
like cancer to get us on the
Unfortunately.
track that we need.
Yeah. And I do
right?
notice a lot of times it's at that point health-wise.
Yeah.
You know, for me it was again, you know, having a breakdown, having ulcers. For you, I know it was the doctor telling you,
10 years,
you know,
you're gonna
your
live.
weight. So
Yeah.
again, so unfortunately,
Yeah.
and I think if we can start to listen to that internal dialogue a little bit more and that internal compass, it will help us.
Way before
Way
the
before.
rock bottom moment, you
Yeah,
guys. 'Cause
exactly.
those signs have been there.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
how many times did I know I needed to lose weight, right? How many
Right.
times I look in the mirror and think, why don't you do something about this? How many times, like, but yes,
it's
we are
there.
our ego and we lead instead of leading with your heart. But so, yeah, I mean, Lori says at the end of all of this, go get screened. And I'm going to say at the end of all of this, like, be open and willing to see the signs.
Yeah.
Because more than likely they were there before you. There's always preventative work no matter
exactly.
what you're doing.
So-
Career burnout or what.
So we got about 1 minute left. If you could just leave with one nugget other than just go out there and get yourself screened, what would be the one nugget you want to leave with
That's
our
such the
viewers?
important one.
I
That's such
know.
the important one. You know, honestly, just be good to yourself, right? Give yourself grace and just really be unstoppable. Like, you have one life, and just embrace every day.
Yeah.
Embrace every day.
Yeah.
We don't know if you have a copy.
I don't.
Of Volume 1 of
Volume
Boss Up. But obviously, as one Boss Up babe to another,
thank you.
Yes.
we want to give you a gift for being on it, and we're so glad. Like, this movement brought us all
together.
That's the sign, y'all. You know, like, it was one call. But thank you for being such a beautiful guest and being open enough to share your story.
Thank you.
It's inspired.
Yes.
It's inspired others.
Beautiful.
Goodness.
So, thank you all so much for joining us today for just another inspirational and powerful episode of Living Real TV. We really appreciate you supporting and watching, and we are looking forward to our next time with you. Until then, I'm Clara Capano.
I'm Carissa Atkins.
Keep living real.